Why do I torture myself with these movies? So yes, I am continuing my somewhat marathon. It's not even a marathon I want to do. It's because I want to do a top 10 best and worst of the topic. But Netflix has a bunch of these Blumhouse films, so I've been catching up on some of them. And again, I say it in every video, I already have a list of what I'm going to watch, so I've got that taken care of. Some of them don't have the beginning, because like the opening logo, because they weren't necessarily produced, but they were released by. So every time I go to play a movie and I see that, stamp it death, more often than not. This is a film that came out last year, and I call it SlenderMercy Blackman. Why? Because it's called Mercy Black, but it is essentially the Slender Man film and the Slender Man murders. Or the one really notorious attack with the two teenage girls in Wisconsin. And before we go any further, because I know it's going to be in the comments, because I see it in the comments on other rants on this film. If you're going to say films or filmmakers and producers and studios have taken inspiration from real life events, tragedies, whatever, to capitalize on it because you want to sound smart, this is not that case. Because it does not say based on a true story, inspired by a true story or true event. It is a blatant ripoff of the Slender Man film. So I've seen some people even compare it to that Haunting of Sharon Tate movie. I'm sorry, but this is different than that too. Because at least the Haunting of Sharon Tate, there's movies that will come out and say based or inspired by true events. And then there are ones that will be let it known like loosely inspired by, just so we can kind of know where it's coming from. Not all the time, most of the time. But then there's other films like The Haunting of Sharon Tate, films by Quentin Tarantino, Inglourious Bastards, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it makes it known that this is an alternate history. This is, a different way, a what if of things happening. This isn't that either, because it is literally right on the nose of that Slender Man case. So, whatever you're going to say about movies have been doing this forever, no to whatever you're going to say. I'm sorry, but... So yeah, it exploits that true story and completely rips off the Slender Man film without, it does that, and it tries to act like it's its own thing. It's completely own separate idea, which it's not. It's almost like if you take a sliver of Martyrs and put it in Slender Man. You have this young girl, her friend. The friend is the more dominant one. She's the more submissive one that's manipulated by the dominant one to coerce this other friend, this other girl, out into the woods so they can stab her in this ritualistic, sacrificial manner for this urban legend figure. Does that sound familiar? So then she's put away in a hospital for 15 years. She gets out and she's, sort of guilt, like survivor's guilt, ridden schizophrenia and delusions. So that's basically what it is. She moves in with her sister, and then her nephew hears about Mercy Black, which is the name of the boogeyman figure. And then he starts exhibiting, you know, having visions and being told to do certain things. Directed by Owen Edgerton, whose name I can't even click on, so I can't see what else he's done, if anything. It stars Daniela Pineda as our lead. She was also in Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom and Jurassic Park Dominion, which will be out next year. Nothing else I've seen. And it co-stars Austin Amelio and Janine Garofalo. Janine Garofalo is her therapist. Austin Amelio is her sister's off-on boyfriend. So yeah, this was a release between Netflix and Blumhouse, which great combination, you know, perfect storm of greatness. I will say, for Netflix originals, their serial killer documentaries are excellent. The original films, can't say too much. And basically, so yeah, it's not specifically about, you know, it doesn't follow the two girls like the Slender Man film does, or the Slender Man story does. It's more so the aftermath. But it even plays with how, because she doesn't really know what happened between then and now, because the hospital never told her. So she doesn't know that Mercy Black became the first sort of viral, scary urban legend challenge, I guess, like Slender Man. Because her sister's boyfriend, he's the most relatable character. They tried to make him off to be an asshole, but, and yeah, you can't really respect everything he does in the film, but because he's a guy that loves true crime, he lives for this shit, he's known her case, he wants to write a book about it and make money because they live in Poorville. And of course, he gets attacked. And the look of Mercy Black is literally, if you take a Court of Owls mask from Batman, make it red, like this witchy kind of dressy cloak with skeletal stick-like arms and a glove. And this movie is full of jump scares, and it has at least one dream fake-out sequence. So of course, you have the two things that show no effort or ambition as far as scares, and the cheapest kind of scares there are. And it figures a movie like this is the one that gets the full commitment of mental illness. Can't have that in Hereditary. Sure, we get it in Delirium. You know, Oculus was the perfect middle of the road of mental illness or supernatural. Hereditary should have just stuck with mental illness because it would have had a way better ending than the one it had. Yes, I understood Hereditary. I gotta put that disclaimer in there every time too. Of course, a movie like this is the one that really commits to it's all in her delusional head. I don't care if I spoil this. Yeah, it's all over the internet, like creepypasta and stuff. The son, the nephew starts talking to this librarian who's kind of trying to help him through it. So the dog gets killed, the sister's boyfriend gets killed. We don't really see much. It's usually a face outside of a window with a jump scare, a loud music sting. Come to find out at the end, the librarian, because part of their ritual, after they stab the girl 7 times, dip their hands in her blood and walk into the lake, the other girl takes 10 snips and cuts one of her fingers off. So the librarian shows her hand to the main girl, and she's missing half her finger. She's the girl, and she lived. And just to make it a little bit more distasteful by completely ripping off not just another movie, but the true story with any acknowledgement to the real-life events, makes the girl, the victim, not just be a victim, But she grows up to be just as delusional and the killer behind everything. Yeah, she's dressing up like Mercy Black, and she's the one that killed the dog, killed the boyfriend, attacked the sister, because the sister gets attacked. And so it's like, okay, not only are you acknowledging, or not acknowledging the true events, making it be like, okay, this is inspired by something that happened and continues to inspire kids to do dumb, horrific shit to each other. But we're also going to make the victim to be just as delusional, because when they were girls, she was part of this Mercy Black pact, but then she was chosen by the other two to be the victim, to be the ritual sacrifice. But the lead girl didn't go through with it, like the finishing move, so she lived. And because you have to make a promise to Mercy Black, so she went her whole life believing the delusion that the promise wasn't fulfilled. So she did all this shit when the lead girl got out to help her remember so that she can go complete the promise. Oh, and then it ends with one final jump scare where we do see Mercy Black with the nephew, because the nephew says, I made a promise, because he stabs the librarian at the very end. And they make Mercy Black look real, which, okay, so it doesn't really say if it's a delusion or not, which, okay, is this movie complete and utter trash? Or garbage, or a dumpster fire? The common hyperbole that everyone uses for everything that is just short of a masterpiece, believe me, it gets thrown around a lot. It's like, oh, I don't like that one part in this movie. Utter garbage trash. Yeah. Go to any fan page and you'll see what I mean on Facebook. No, I can't, because it does have production value. It does look like a decent film. It looks like a Blumhouse film, but it looks like a film. The acting isn't really the problem, except for the little kid. The little kid, okay, he wasn't like 97 TV Shining bad. Maybe it was the material, but he was literally doing every horror movie kid cliche. Blank stares. Wide eyes once in a while. Look over at stuff that's not there. Nod. Whenever you talk, whisper cryptic, creepy things like, she's outside. She wants me. I can see her. And he's not a very good actor. A couple times he has to get like a little sinister, but that doesn't work either. His screaming, like, his scared face doesn't look believable either. I know he's a little kid, but it's bad enough you're giving him all the cliches. Blank stare. Wide eyes when something does happen. Okay. And then whisper creepy things. He's already a bad actor and you make him do all that shit. One scene I can give it is, okay, we learned that Mercy Black was made up by the two main girls. They made everything up. And then they convinced the other girl that it was a real urban legend so they can do the ritual. So then the lead girl has to convince the now delusional killing victim that it was all fake. So they go down to the layer, like the fallout shelter where they made Mercy Black, like a scarecrow. But she's delusional. She's schizophrenic. She's been hallucinating the whole movie. So it looks like that scarecrow-looking thing is coming after her. And whether it's like crawling or it's just like levitating towards her, it still looks like a cheap scarecrow. Some people will say it looks like a cheap effect. I disagree, because it still looks like what it is. I'm not schizophrenic. I've never hallucinated. I like to think it's not going to create all crazy shit. it's still gonna look like what it is, like, but just like it's moving on its own. So it makes it look a little more believable. In her head, yeah, it looks like this twiggy scarecrow is coming after her. It does look cheap, but for the sake of the context and for the sake of the character, what she would see probably would look like that. So I give it credit there. I don't think that's a cheap looking effect. This movie, though, yeah, it's not, no, this is not like other movies that are based or inspired by true events. It's not like movies that are alternate histories or what-if stories. Possession of Sharon Tate, that's a garbage film. Or Tarantino's alternate histories. It's nothing like those. This is just a complete ripoff, and I'm not one to get mad at poor taste. A lot of stuff I like is in poor taste. But, you know, it really is, because, I mean, people even had problems with the Slender Man film. So they're like, oh, okay, well, Slender Man is popular. But it must have hurt, apart from our very poor marketing, our completely ass-backwards marketing plan, because it's Slender Man. What if we change the look of the character, change the name, no one knows it's Slender Man, then everyone will go see it, and it'll be a hit. So, like, as much as I hate to admit, people are smarter than that. And, yeah, this literally is that one Slender Man case from Wisconsin. It really is. Almost exactly beat for beat. Except the victim didn't go on to become... I actually don't even remember if the victim lived or not. I think the victim lived. But I think there were some cases where there actually were murders. I'm just going to look that up real quick just because it's going to bother me. Slender Man stabbing. Yeah, okay. Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weir stabbed Peyton Lautner, and she did live. Okay, so even then, it's still very much the Slender Man stabbing. Only in that case, she didn't grow up to become a just as believing and delusional killer. I mean, they could have still had the survivor, and this sounds cliche, but I think it would have helped the story and the taste a little bit. Okay, if she is sort of driven crazy, maybe it is because from the events, but say the fame and notoriety from the case ruined her life, and maybe she can get a little bit of self-redemption if she does go with the lead girl to help solve Mercy Black. That sounds cliche, but this movie's already full of fucking cliches. The creepy kid is a walking little cliche. All the jump scares, the dream fake out sequence. You know, this entire movie is a fucking cliche. And it's not scary at all. Anything I would have liked about it, like, okay, this is full-on mental illness, even though they're exploiting it because they're doing that to the victim. But then they had that stupid final last jump scare where Mercy Black could be real. And, of course, literally every note, like even down to how all over the world there's these Mercy Black cases, and it's become the biggest creepypasta and the biggest viral urban legend modern day boogeyman because of these two girls. It literally went on to become Slender Man, even though Slender Man was around before those two girls in Wisconsin. So no, I can't say this is a piece of shit film because, hell, it's even better than some Blumhouse films I've seen. But it's such a blatant ripoff of not just of another movie. In fact, this is even better than the Slender Man movie, which is even more paradoxical. But it's also just sort of an unnecessary, fictionalized account of when these two attention-seeking kids who had no guidance, stabbed one of their classmates. So yeah, kind of tasteless and not a very good film at all. I commend it for the things I said. Production value, most of the acting, and I actually like the effect where the fake-looking scarecrow is levitating towards her. Because I imagine if she's hallucinating, it's going to look more like that than a CGI-looking thing. Even though there is a part where the mask does a CGI scream and CGI spiders come crawling out of it. But that's a dream sequence. So, yeah. That's Mercy Black.